And we're back. What's up, everybody? Carolina Keith, regular Keith, Professor Keith, just Keith. It's Keith. Oh no, it's Keith. I can't stand Keith. It's Keith. I'm cool with Keith. How y'all doing? Hope you had a good weekend. Boy, did things get gnarly over on the chart world. And just like that, as soon as you think you got things figured out, snap your fingers and down they go. We're going to talk about it. Also want to talk about a bunch of traditional assets. As you'll see, we slightly tweak things a little bit. Let's get into it. Without further ado, welcome to Charts After Dark. If you haven't done so, please go hit the like button. It costs absolutely nothing. It's free. While you're there, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Last but not least, Google Trends tells me that a good majority of you who watch don't subscribe. Why not? It's free. It costs absolutely nothing. So help a brother out. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Now, first things first, let's jump into this mess that's called Bitcoin. Good news here. Been in stable coins for a while now. Got some gains on this last little move up. Before things got too crazy, decided to bail and jumped into stable coins, and it's worked out great. For those of you who don't know, I moved into stable coins and traditional assets specifically because I had a worry that we had started the bear market and no altcoins were going to recover from this. And while there's more gains in altcoins, they just flat have underperformed. So I thought to myself, hey, do I want to stick around in Bitcoin and take a chance on getting roasted? Or do I want to bail and let's see if we can get a lower price? And that's exactly what's conspired. Is that the right word? That's exactly what's happened. That's exactly what's happened over the last few days. We've seen Bitcoin take a really gnarly turn to the downside. I'm going to talk about how much farther I think it's going to go and when I think all this stuff will end. So let's hit the record button. There we go. So I've got the daily chart here, but first I'm going to step back out on the weekly. So looking back at things here, it's fairly clear that we're following along with the same cycle that we always have, just not the same gains or losses that we've had in the past. All right. And that goes in both directions, up and down. This indicator you're going to see here is called Bitcoin halving cycle profit. All right. So shout out to China Matt for showing me this several months ago. But it's worked pretty darn well, and we've seen some pretty good use out of it. So essentially, the yellow and green dotted lines are halving here, and it shows you when to start taking profit, when to stop taking profit, and when to start rebuying and when to stop rebuying. So essentially, 40 weeks after halving, that's when you can start taking money back out of the market. 80 weeks after halving, that's usually the end of the bull run. And then another 135 weeks after the halving, which ends up being about 392 days or just over a year after the cycle top, is about when you start rebuying whatever you sold. This is the best way that we've found to DCA scrape profits and roll them back. You've seen this 1,000 times where I've talked about the cycle, and it seems like the cycle is still really similar. It even tells you, hey, DCA at the bottom. You can spread those DCs out into 20% buys and still do pretty well at finding close to the bottom. That's all the way back to 2018, 2019, right? And then you go back to our last cycle that we just had. Very similar results. The top came in right about 80 weeks after halving. And after that, it was all slow down from there. You can see profit start ended up being right about perfect, and then profit stop also ended up being right about perfect. And then this time, this cycle, same sort of scenario. It told you where to rebuy 135 days after halving, which was really, really close to the bottom. And then, hey, same thing, profit start, profit stop, right about where the end of the cycle was, is right about where this thing kicked us out. Sure enough, it was really, really, really close. So it leads me to go, hey, how much farther down are we going to go? Where are we going to end? That's why I've already got this line and this level marked right here. This orange line that you see right there, it says rebuy this vertical line here after the bull run is over, late 2026. This is about 135 weeks after halving, which happened over here at the orange dash line. It's fairly obvious the Bitcoin's running the same cycle. It's just that the gains and the losses have become smaller. All right. So how far down do we go? Well, kind of went through this last time, but I'll do it again here for you. From the bottom of the bull market to the top of the bull market, that's about where we ended off right there. That's not perfect, but it's really, really, really close to the tip top right there. This was an uptrend. As you can see, it has clearly failed. I could pull these fibs really, really tight here and get it perfect, but the point is I want you to be able to see what I'm looking at here. All right. I'll pull this out here to when I'm planning on rebuying, which should be right toward the end of the year. What's up, fellas? What's up, Jeremy? What's up, Jag? What's up, Distinctive Shine? Take your profits. You daggone right. Rule number 4 is crucial. So weekly chart, you can see our fibs. Our 0 fib is our top, our 236, 382, 50, and 618. This is percentage of losses, percentage of retrace. That's 23% retrace, 38%, 50%, 61.8. This kind of gives you some waypoints along the way on how far we very well may fall. So in log mode, 382 is at 56,718. If you pull up the weekly moving averages, the 200 moving average is right around that $56,000 to $60,000 range. All right. If I flip this into linear mode instead of log mode, because some of you guys really give me a hard time about being in log mode, I've found very good use with log mode. That's why I use it, especially for higher time frame and more volatile stuff. Nonetheless, 50 fib at the $71,000 area. All right. So that's why I have this summer floor potential DCA level here, because we'll go back in history and look, but we have had summer floors come in where they've kind of tried to hold on before. And I think it's possible with the federal government and the FOMC pushing rate cuts into the new FOMC chair members or the head of new FOMC guys. A whole idea is they're going to start cutting rates again. If they do an aggressive cut, something like a half point or 3/4 of a point or even a full point, you're going to see some sort of reaction when that happens. Now, the question is, how far down do we go by then? I don't really know that answer to be perfect, but I do know that we are really, really cooked on some of this stuff, and there's got to be some bounce in here somewhere, all right? That note that the 618 in linear is at 57,009. And if you remember, in log mode, I said 56,007. That's about 56 to 60,000 would be a really gnarly retrace and would take a lot of steam out of the market. And at the same time, it would also create an oversold condition on the weekly. We have not been oversold on Bitcoin on the weekly since the bottom of the bear market in 2022. That's the last time Bitcoin was this oversold. We're already almost oversold. Do you see that? That's why I think we're going to have some sort of a bounce over here where this thing sort of plays games a little bit and then sort of digs down in here. I don't know exactly when, but it was in 2022, it was the summer when Bitcoin was the most overbought. Now, I'm oversold. Now, it did go lower from there, but there was an opportunity there to buy and have a really low buy-in. Similar thing happened at the end of 2018, but it was actually the end of the bull run and the end of the bear market. I'm sorry, the end of the bear market when the bottom came in then. You see it sprinted straight to overbought. And every time it's done this, every time it's went oversold, look what happens. She sprinted to overbought. And if you go back in history and try to find an older chart, you'll see something else that's very similar to this. So it's hard to beat what we had back in 2016. It's also tough to compete with what we dealt with in 2020. That's when interest rates were nearly zero. And if you don't understand why that matters, well, economically speaking, it's really, really easy to borrow money when interest rates are very, very low. And you can take that money and invest it for little to no risk. And that's why they like to, hey man, have those rates low. We can get a bunch of money pulled together. We can buy a bunch of stuff, pay that loan off, and make a ton of profits. Bam, right? It's really difficult to pull that off, but it's possible. And it only gets more possible the lower you cut those rates. It also helps home mortgages. Right now, you're going to find out if you try to buy a home, it's very, very expensive. I was talking to a guy about it today. And same thing, hey man, explaining to what our house payment is, what our mortgage rate is, and how much our mortgage costs every month. Even with insurance and escrow, it's still 40% cheaper than just mortgage right now, right? That's the difference in the interest rate that I've got versus the interest rates that are being offered right now. That's why part of the reason why we moved to this house when we did, right? Is killer interest rate. And it's part of the reason why we don't want to get rid of it, even though we're outgrowing the house, right? I have 2 teenage boys that are getting big, a wife that's in, that not only teaches, but she's also in school to be a doctor. So, she needs her own office. She needs her own place to do her work. I have this office in here that I take up most of the space in here. We're running out of room in here, right? So we're going to have to make a decision here in the not too distant future, whether we keep this house, get rid of it, rent it, build another house over in the farm. We have a whole bunch of farmland a few miles away here. Spent a lot of money over there already on a lot of stuff. But hey, there's no house over there for us yet. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting thought, interesting process. We'll see when we get there. What's up, Terry? Terry, we'll have a Zoom after this for the mods for about an hour if you're down. Anyway, there's my landing spots that I see. Could be a stop at 70,000 and a bounce for the summer. Could find a floor there temporarily. Also, we could dig all the way down to 56,000, 55,000, 60,000, somewhere around in there, and that be the summer floor and bounce from there. And that may end up being a double bottom from there. That's what I say. The way up made less money, but also the way down is going to lose less. That's the thing about this thing becoming more adopted and becoming more of a mainstream thing. The more of a mainstream thing we have, the less volatility we're going to get. And that's just the name of the game. You guys wanted mass adoption, and you're getting it. Okay. That's how I see it on Bitcoin. Weekly 200 moving average makes sense. That's flirting around with 56 to 60,000. We'll see from there. It's rough. Sorry, but is what it is. Let me jump over here and check the message. What's up, Munchie? Stablecoin USDC. There's nothing wrong with USDT. I just don't trust it as much as I trust USDC, which I also don't trust much. They're all very untrustworthy. You know what I mean? I don't like to be the guy who's out here who's pushing something that's sketchy at best. Do what you want to do. Pick your own thing. But that's where I set my stable coins. So we'll go through a couple altcoins here, and then we're moving on to traditional assets. Fellas, the altcoins look terrible. I went through the top 25 in the Discord today. If you're not in a Discord, you can check it out right here. wap.com/team786. It's right there at the bottom. First month, completely free. Costs absolutely nothing. And it's half off after that. It's a whopping 1/2 of a Starbucks coffee every month. Exactly. It keeps the crazies out, keeps the stupids, keeps the crazies out, keeps the stupids out. That's why we do it. So, check it out. But anyway, top 25, we have a whole section just for the top 25. They all look rough aside from 1 or 2. And then we also have a separate section for the Magnificent 7, the top assets. We do different indices like SPY, NASDAQ, DJI, QQQ, Investco, SMH, VanEck Semiconductors. We also have a whole section for crypto-related stocks in there. I keep those updated constantly. Went through them this afternoon. This is a brutal time, bro. Stuff is brutal out there. Is what it is, though. So let's go look at a couple altcoins real quick. We'll do first, let's get XRP. I posted this chart, and I posted a video from the last live stream that I did and said, hey, man, I see $1.25 coming in the future. Maybe not immediately, but in time. Boy, I got some hateful DMs for that one. But the bottom line is it's a really, really distinct possibility. We're still buried under the trend line here, and there's no mistake in that, right? And you see I had it zoomed out here and show you the retrace. It's not that much different than Bitcoin right now. If I go from the last low to the high and I measure downward, you can see that we failed the 236 fib, blew right through it, back tested it very, very bearishly, and now we're under the 382 fib as well. You can see the candle right there is underneath the 382. We're failing it. We're holding this zone still, which is great. As long as it holds this zone, there's a possibility that it can sprint back to this trend line. But if it does not close back over 170 in the near future, she's going down south, and down south is 134 to 125. Sorry. That's the bottom of the golden pocket, and potentially down here to Sniper's Alley in the linear mode 786. That's at 117. So it gets really gnarly if it falls down that far, but I don't want to get that far out in front of myself. There are other barriers of progress here. Get back over 170 and close, and we change some opinions. We can try to get to this trend line. Again, I think that's just a ruse. I think we get a touch and fail. Even if that happens, you're either going to get this move where we roll over and come down to there, or you're going to get a move where it comes up here, breaks the trend and tags the trend line on this side, and then comes down and gives us a fail. Again, summertime, we should see some sort of bounce in the summer. Where will that bounce come from? Well, it could come from the 134 to 125 range. If it does, excellent. If it doesn't come from that range, boy, it's going to be a gnarly fall down. Again, the only places to go from there are down here into the $1 range, like I said, or digging all the way down to 75 cents. That's a brutal number. I think that's a little much to go for right now. So let's not do that yet. One step at a time. And I hate to say it, but it is what it is. It's a gnarly looking chart. And we pull some short-term temporary fibs on it here for the daily. Looking at the daily, this was an uptrend that failed. So we can measure it. And as we measure, we see this short-term move up and then back down has run us aground into the take profit fibs going back upward. So these are areas down here in these take profit fibs where you want to either think about getting out if you were shorting or think about buying if you were long. And that's why I say there's an opportunity for potential bounce here, because you've gone down into the take profit fibs and you're showing that potentially you want to bounce out of this. There's an opportunity here, all right? Here's the way back up, and here's the levels that I'm looking for on the way back up. And pull the fibs back this way. If this is the bottom bounce area and you're going to come out of this mess, here are the numbers to break. That 167 to 170 range, like I talked about a minute ago, that's the number one crucial spot. Really, really, truly, you need to get over 190. That's the 50 fib. What can happen here a lot of times is they bounce and they come back to the 50 fib, which is halfway, only to then fail more and make another lower low. That's kind of what I expect. So it's quite possible that it gets past 190 and gets to the golden pocket, which is also a retrace level. So I bounce up to the golden pocket and fade. That makes a ton of sense as well. Last but not least, if you notice right here, this big fib line, that's the 236, lines up with the Sniper's Alley level right here at the 886 level at 228. Fully possible we retrace all the way back up there and tag that before we come back down. One way or another, that's the way I see it happening. All there is to it. Hoping it doesn't happen that way, but hopes and dreams get dashed when you invest. You better stick to the charts and better stick to the facts. Sorry, XRP people, be mad at me. I don't like having people mad at me, but if there's one person that tells you the truth, then I'll be that guy. What's really crazy is to see former members, former friends, former people who learned, go on the internet, go on live streams of their own, and go create discords of their own where they do the exact same thing that I taught them not to do. Don't come out there with the hopium. Don't come out there throwing softballs up like you hitting home runs and just miss and miss and miss. Why? When you do that, you make every TA guy look bad. Yeah, you gobble a couple followers up. Congratulations. But you're making every TA guy look bad when you do that. I don't like that. You're going to do what you're going to do, and I can't stop you. But gosh, man, use some common sense. You know what I mean? Use some common sense. Don't be the guy who thinks he knows it all, only to be dashed. I tell everybody this all the time. I am a simple person. I know very little. I know about this stuff, but this is about all I know. That and HVAC stuff. Other stuff doesn't matter to me, and I don't care. This is just kind of my area of expertise. So I spend a lot of time doing this, way more time than the average person, and I hope that resonates with people. It probably won't, but I try. Last thing we'll get to is Ethereum. I don't want to go through a bunch of cryptos because they're brutal. Ethereum's fallen farther faster than most of them. It's still not oversold on the weekly, just like Bitcoin and XRP. Getting close, but not quite. Daily, yes. You flip it down to daily. Look at that. As we know, when the RSI is oversold, well, that's a good opportunity to think about buying. Doesn't always mean it's the right time. It just means it's a good opportunity to take note. Also make note that this is the overall from 2025, overall 618 right here. Now I can step it way back on Ethereum and it's even farther down from there. All right. All the way back to 2020, it gets brutal. Pull a fib on it like this. And if you look at it like that, you say, hey man, we're still over the trend. And I kind of would agree with you. So it fell so far so fast. I do think we're due a bounce. The question is how much of one. We've been stuck in this range for going on 5 years now. It hasn't broken out between, between 5,000 and 1,000. It's been a big range, but it's been stuck in that range for quite a while. If it doesn't get out of this range and break the trend line, that red line right there, doesn't break that trend line, then my targets down south are 2,000, and then potentially all the way back down to 1,000, back down to the 382. It could get really, really, really gnarly for Ethereum here if it doesn't find a footing. I certainly hope it does, because if it doesn't, boy, that's going to barbecue a bunch of people's stuff. I don't want to see a bunch of people get rickrolled. You know what I mean? Sucks. All right. Let's move over into some stocks and top assets. First, the dollar index. Dollar index on the weekly continues to play around with this big trend line that's been trying to hold for several years, all the way back to 2010. It's kind of held along this trend line. If you go flip it to daily, you can see that she temporarily failed. Might have busted some liquidations out right there if you were betting on it. If you were doing some Forex trades, let me get something to drink. If you were trading Forex, you probably got smoked right there. She's jumped back over the trend line since, and it's in the 8 EMA, 21 EMA wait a minute zone, which is in between the two. That just means simply wait. You're either going to go over it or under it. I'll just wait and see which one it does before you make a big decision. All the moving averages are still balled up. Even if it gets loose, that becomes a distinct barrier of progress. I'm glad that it got back over the trend, because I don't want to see the dollar completely collapse. However, I do want to see the dollar go down to make risk assets go up. She's currently fighting back. I think that's part of the reason that you're seeing some assets roll back in the last day or two, which we'll get into now. Let's go to top assets. There we go. Here's the S&P 500. So we'll go through the indices first, right? S&P 500, yesterday you threw a really, really nice candle to fight back after that ugly red candle and wick. You pretty much bullish engulfed, but not quite all the way. Only to then today, bearish engulfed this thing back in the other direction. Bounced a wick off of the 50 moving average. Now we've seen it do this in the past, right? Throw wicks off the 50 moving average, keep moving up and sideways. I am to expect that that's what it continues to do until it no longer does it. All right. You did close under the 821 EMA. I don't like that. So it could take a few days for this thing to catch its wind. It might come down here and catch the 50 moving average again before it moves up. Let's keep our eyes on it, because things are changing, right? And if you look at weekly, it's still not a terrible candle. That's a doji candle at the bottom. This very much could just be a consolidation move for another move back up. We'll have to wait and see. NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ had a really, really nice breakout and move to a new local high. It did not make a new all-time high. Almost did, came close, and then immediately failed back to under the trend line again, fighting around with these moving averages. You see it right there bouncing off the 100, kind of pinned, right? I'd like to see it hang on, because there's a lot of money in the NASDAQ and there's a lot of profits hinging on that. You had a good candle on Monday, only then Tuesday come in and just rickroll that thing back in the other direction. Ugh. Now, I want to give it the benefit of the doubt. It's held this 100 firm for a while, and it's also consolidated for several months here. So I think a move is due either way. Here's your weekly. It's a little more bearish than that S&P 500 was, huh? Got some bearish wicks on the top. Might be a slowdown time. Dow Jones, there's your weekly. You're almost at a new all-time high recently. This looks much better than the NASDAQ. Problem is daily through that red candle today. This would be a tweezer candle. It closed inside of the previous candle with wicks on the top and bottom. Full-on indecision here. What you going to do? So it's likely this thing just waits a few days and consolidates. It is still over the 821 EMA. It is ever so close to a new all-time high. Didn't quite get there. Bollinger Bands are getting tight. These are going to squeeze, and when they do, we will see that volatility come back, and you'll see a move abrupt in one direction or the other. How about the Russell 2000? Russell 2000 here on the daily, still trending up. Caught the trend line here and bounced. Very nice. It's a bit of an odd candle that it threw today. This could be a reversal scenario. If you flip it to weekly, here it is fighting around, trying to take the all-time high again like you saw with the others. Over the EMA, still holding strong. Not a bad look. It may be consolidating like you just saw. Bollinger Bands are starting to pinch. I'm to believe, since we're making higher lows and higher highs, that it continues on down that path. Well, at least we hope it does anyway, right? SMH VanEck Semiconductors. This is a big fun. Me and Andrew talked about this today. This thing is up a ton over the past year plus. Doing great. Semiconductors have just been on a rip. And if you expect them to stop, that's great. I don't expect them to stop. Maybe slow down a tick, but not stop. Wait a minute zone after today. Big bearish engulfing, right? You're in the 821 wait a minute zone here. So I want to see what it does come tomorrow. Make a move out or not. I kind of thought about sticking a few bucks every month over in this and just DCAing it. I don't know yet. It's been a really solid fund. I've got money sitting in savings that only draws a 1/4 point interest per year. Like, come on. What are we doing? So really makes me think, hey man, maybe take that money out and put it into something else. I don't know. I haven't made my mind up yet. Maybe it's going to slow down here. It's been overbought for quite a while. And some of your indicators are starting to roll over. So I think I'll give it a pause. Apple. Apple had some of the best chart out of most. Look at the run it made. Broke the 821 EMA, broke the 100 EMA, broke through the 50 moving average, over the trend line. And by the way, the 8 EMA, 21 EMA move happened prior to earnings reports. This thing was oversold, the most oversold Apple had been since all the way back in 2008. All of a sudden, it comes popped up. Warned you about this. I said, hey, man, keep your eyes on this. Apple will not stay oversold like this for too much longer. I made the move, went ahead and bought me some. Dollar cost averaged it several times. Got my price down pretty good. Now we're sitting in profits. Now, what's it going to do from here? Well, problem, it is sitting right near the golden pocket, so be careful. See it right there? Golden pocket. Hitting the fibs, right there's your golden pocket. A little bit trapped for now. Would like to see it get up and stay up, but you also have Sniper's Alley up here at 278 to 283. Nonetheless, as long as it stays up there above that trend line, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to leave it be. This is something that I decided to do a little bit longer term. Ichimoku cloud, it did jump back into the cloud, but it isn't exactly what you want to see there. Still room for improvement. Not bad. Tesla. All right, so Tesla, in case you didn't know, SpaceX and XAI merged. Elon wants to take servers for AI, put them up in space, and power them with solar panels, and that would solve the power problem with not having enough electricity for servers, and it would solve the cooling problem because if you didn't know, outer space is wicked cold. So that's what he wants to do. He wants to take AI servers and put them in space. Mind melting, but if anybody could pull it off, it's him. You're sitting in the golden pocket here in the catch zone. You threw several wicks after falling off. It is a little bit worrisome because it's under all the moving averages. You need to see this jump the moving averages before I'm a bit convinced, and it hasn't done so yet. It's not anything different here with the cloud as well. It's directly under the cloud. It is a discount, but is it a discount worth taking? Is it risky? It's a little bit too risky for me to make a move. I'd like to sit on the other side. RSI is no help at all. And if you look at the weekly on Tesla here, again, you really no help. All the indicators are kind of slumped over, but it's over the trend line. So I'm to sit and wait. That's what I'm going to do. Long term, I still think this thing gets to $600 plus, and it's at 421 right now. So he'll probably say something about 420 tomorrow, and everybody will start talking about it. Kind of what he does. We'll do one or two more, and that's it. How about Microsoft? Oh my goodness, fellas. Microsoft is down from all-time high 25%. 25%. Do you believe Microsoft will go back to all-time high eventually? If you believe Microsoft's going to go back to all-time high eventually, you have 25% gains just to all-time high. That's 10% more than a typical index fund makes in a year. So here's your Fibonacci retracement from this uptrend that failed and made a downtrend. As you see, the weekly fibs have run into the golden pocket between 414 and 396. You're at 411 right now. What do you think is going to happen here? Well, it's tough to call. You do have a big gap back to almost $500. Look at the oversold RSI. Gosh, that makes me want to buy some. So, I mean, I'm thinking about it myself. I'm going to keep my eye on it. I got a hankering to buy some. There is a CME gap all the way back to almost $400. So maybe at 400, I can't turn that down. That'd be tough to turn down. You know what I mean? Bill Gates in the e-files. Yeah, that's another thing, man. There's so many dudes in the pedophiles. So it's a tough call, but I really hate to run from this kind of gains. Like, I mean, that's 25% back to all-time high. And you don't think Microsoft is going away, do you? I mean, either. Last one, NVIDIA. Another story of playing around with the trend line. A lot like Tesla, this thing continues to consolidate sideways. Back to all-time high is 14% for NVIDIA. Not as good as Tesla, right? Not as good as Microsoft. Those are down a little more. This also failed the moving averages just yesterday. Don't like that. So it looks like it wants to go back to the 200. It's also done this a couple times where it went under and jumped right back over. Went under and jumped right back over. So it's a little bit wishy-washy. Can't exactly figure out what it wants to do. Keep your eyeballs peeled on it. As long as it stays over the trend line, it's not bad, right? And I hope that makes you guys understand, boy, these traditional assets are doing way better than crypto. It's not even close. They are far and away out front. And because of that, that's part of the reason we changed from crypto after dark to charts after dark. I don't want it to be just crypto focused. I want everybody who invests, everybody who wants to learn how to take the power of charts, the power of managing your own money into your own hands like I do. I don't pay anybody to manage my money. I hope all you guys get enjoyment out of this. Switch to the old time again. Got a lot of changes happening in my life over here, so I'm trying to handle it all and manage it all and bundle it all together. Hopefully you guys come back and check us out again for Thursday. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 p.m. Tune in, check us out. I appreciate everybody watching. We had about 200 people watching tonight. Sometimes we get to 1,000. We're not doing that tonight, but it's all right. Appreciate it all. Y'all be good. I'll see y'all on the next live stream. Y'all handle it. Sky's the limit. I'm out. Peace.